I would like to introduce you to our next Wise Sage Project interview, and that will be Reverend Dr. Barbara Waterhouse. She's the co-founding minister of the Center for Spiritual Living Asheville, North Carolina. Welcome, Barbara. We are very happy to have you participate in this project. Now, we would like to know something about you and where you got started, how you found Science of Mind, and what you've been doing all of these many, many years, which is a lot, isn't it? I think you've been around quite a long time.
Thank you, Marilyn. I'm delighted that you think I'm a wise sage.
You are. Okay, thank you.
So I was running away from home. I had left my first husband with my 3-year-old son and went as far away from Central Florida as I could get, which was to Eugene, Oregon. And that was in August of 1977. I had no money, no car, no place to live, no nothing. And I found myself sleeping on a friend's couch. Not really a friend, but somebody that I knew that took pity upon me and my son and was going to let us stay there for a while. So actually my 3-year-old son was sleeping on the couch. I was sleeping on the floor, and I had been there for a number of days. And one Sunday morning, they got up and somebody kind of nudged me with their foot because I was in the middle of the floor and said, "We're going to church. Do you want to come?" And I said, "Sure," because I got nothing going on. So maybe they at least have coffee there. And I went to the Eugene Church of Religious Science, and for the very first time in my life, heard words of truth that resonated with my soul. It was Bill Tolliver, and he told me that I could have anything that I wanted if I was willing to put the work in. And I'm not afraid of work. So I jumped in. I started taking classes. I was involved in one of their creative living groups, which was a little therapy group that they used to run through RSI. And I just knew that this was my path in life. It's the only thing that I wanted to do. During that time, I mowed lawns and worked at the Eugene Library and did anything that I needed to do to be able to sustain myself as I gobbled up, devoured anything that I could get my hands on. And then after a year and a half, Bill moved to the Fort Lauderdale church, and I stayed for 6 months in Oregon with John Ingram as the minister. And John was a wonderful man, but he just wasn't my teacher. So I packed everything up and went to Fort Lauderdale and stayed there and finished all of my ministerial studies. I worked at the Fort Lauderdale church. If the doors were open, I was there. I was the registrar for all the classes. I just wanted to be there. And then in my 4th year of studies, I was sent down by the minister in Fort Lauderdale, Bill Tolliver, to welcome the minister in Miami who had just moved there from Salem, Oregon, Tony Bonacorso. And I went down there and showed him the town, and it wasn't long after that we ended up getting married. And I was then the minister, the co-minister of the Miami Church of Religious Science. And Tony and I were great together in ministry. We weren't that great together as people. So when the Miami church fell apart, we split ways. And by then John had come from Australia, and he was the administrator of the church in Miami, and we had grown very close. So after Tony and I split up, John and I got together. And from then, we moved up to Asheville, North Carolina. We looked all around the country to see where we wanted to live. By now, my son was 15, and I think it was the day that the sheriff's department landed on the football field at his high school, and the SWAT team came running in the school, that I said, we got to get out of here. You know, we need to go somewhere, a kinder, gentler place. And so we looked all around the country and found Asheville and decided to move here, and we've been here ever since.
That's wonderful. And what, how are you, what have you built there? I know you have your own street name, and you've got a wonderful campus and everything. how do you participate in, I know you probably teach all the classes that are available. How do you participate in the community and in the Centers for Spiritual Living as a whole?
Well, we moved into Asheville and started our center. We actually lived here for about 5 years before we started the center here. There was a very nice Unity church that we started going to, and I tried to be the associate minister there and teach science of mind classes, and that was not a big hit. So we decided to start our own center, and we did it in our living room. And then we moved out onto the farm we were on and spread out into a mobile home, peeled off the front of it and built a 30 by 30 foot room on there. And it was another 5 years before we managed to get property in Asheville and build the campus that we're on now. And you're right, I love to teach. I love to, anybody who'll sit still long enough, I'll start talking science of mind to them. And we had a wonderful, wonderful experience in Asheville. We've probably got, had thousands of members come through our doors. And right now we're at about 300 members. We're on 5 acres. And it's just a wonderful thing to be a part of. I was the first chair of the Minister Council when United and RSI integrated, and the first Minister Council, we voted people on. I got the most votes, so I was the first chair. I'm the one who started minister gatherings at no charge. And the way that we do that is we meet in one of the centers, which is wonderful because ministers want to see what other ministers are doing. So I was the one who insisted on that. We're not going to charge ministers to be with their friends. And that's taken hold, and it's something that I'm very proud of. One of the big feathers in my cap is our internet presence. We have a wonderful website where, again, I have insisted on everything being free. People can make a donation if they want, but I remember being dirt poor trying to figure out how to demonstrate prosperity, and I didn't have, I would pay the $10 to get into class, and that was my groceries. So I don't want to put people in that position. It's my job to teach them how to have money, and it's my job to teach them how to tithe and how to be generous, and then they can fulfill that other part of the giving and receiving. But Marilyn, we've got over 1,000 things on our website, and I know you've got the archives and you understand this. We've got workshops, classes, books. I recorded the original Science of Mind textbook. It's over 10 hours of audio recording. I've got books in Spanish on the website, books in Russian on the website. And in the month of July, we had 145,000 pages opened on our website. Wow. So our main countries are China, Russia, Bulgaria, and South Korea. Those are the people that we're touching. And so I feel very called to put this teaching out to people who really need it. And the people who really need it often are not in this country. They don't speak our language, but truth is truth. And anybody can use these teachings to lift their life up and to demonstrate a better life. So that's one of my big main focuses in this work.
That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. In how have you participated within Centers for Spiritual Living other than the ministers? You were the leader of the ministers organization.
I was chair of the tithe committee, and I took the tithe committee on when the person leading the tithe committee didn't believe in tithing. He and I had some heated words.
That's typical.
So I took the tithe committee on and had to kind of wrestle home office at times to get the checks written out and sent. And that was at a time where we were in a lot of financial difficulty. And I believe we were in a financial difficulty because we were playing around with the tithe, saying we had sent out tithe checks when we hadn't, sending them to our friends, sending them to charities and all of that. And so my job at the time was just to make a big stink. I got to the point where I said, I want to see a copy of that check. And as we came more into integrity with our tithing, our money straightened out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What kinds of places do you encourage our tithe to go to?
We've tithed to Edwin Gaines, who I believe had a wonderful impact on our movement. We've tithed to individual ministers and book writers, things like that. And it's always tricky when it's an organization. It's easy for me at my center because I tithe the home office and we're spiritually fed there. We get all of our accreditation, all of our curriculum, all of that spiritual uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
So I just tithe the home office, but where does home office tithe? That's a question.
Yeah.
Sending it to hurricane relief or to charities or something like that is very noble, but it's not a tithe. So whoever we're giving the awards to, the what was it, the humanitarian award? What was that called? Just a couple of weeks ago. We gave it. Well, if we're giving somebody an award for being the person who's bringing this teaching the most to the world, I would say we should tithe to that person, at least for a period of time. We've tithed to the practitioner council because practitioners are feeding the movement as a whole, and it's the council that is arranging things, especially back in the beginning when money was scarce and councils didn't know what they were doing, things like that.
Okay, that's great. So you've given us lots of words of wisdom without me even asking you, but I would like to ask you, what is your thinking as far as, well, I think I know you're thinking about science, the mind, and the world of the future, but if you put them in your words, I would appreciate that. And then just tell us, just tell us about your ideas about science, the mind, and new thought, and its position in the world today, and where you think its future is. And then if you will end with just your words of wisdom to whoever's watching you, to just for your legacy, words that you would give us.
I've been in this movement 42 years, and I've had the privilege of watching it go mainstream. And it may not have the banner of science of mind or religious science on it, but with the work that Wayne Dyer did of taking our teaching and bringing it out into the world in such a big way, and with all of the other ways that this teaching has filtered through to the normal day-to-day consciousness people, it's very fulfilling to me to see that ideas of sports, that if you can wrap your head around it, you can win the game. Old ideas of sales, that it's your attitude that you bring to the sale that determines whether or not it closes. Even in psychology, they're teaching people that if you focus on something, you're going to experience it in your life. So to me, this is the science of mind teaching filtering into the country and into the world. I believe that New Thought has a wonderful opportunity because it is so much more accepted today than it was 40 years ago. We're not looked at as crazy people or kooks. So I believe that it has a wonderful opportunity to really spread out in the heartland, you know, in the Midwest, in the South, everywhere, not just on the West Coast, and to really be a normalized way of living, especially with such a push to go from religion to spirituality. When that first came up, that was, what? Aren't they the same? And nowadays people are, no, religion and spirituality are two different things. We want to be spiritual. But I caution my peers that this movement is not going to be all that it can be if we are not living it. We cannot get up on Sunday and say one thing and go out on Monday and live a different life. We can't have poverty in our community and poverty in our centers and expect to teach prosperity. So I've been in this for a long time, and I've known a lot of people who stood up on Sunday and said one thing, and that was not what was in their heart. So I think that one of the things that John and I do is that we really depend on this teaching. We trust this teaching. We live by this teaching. We put it to the test over and over and over again. And as we do that, our people do that. They default to treatment. They default to faith, and their lives show it. So I think that if we are going to reap the benefit of all of these incredible giants upon whose shoulders we stand and all of the decades that have gone by, we're going to need to really walk our talk and put our actions where our mouth is and depend on this teaching so that we can prove the demonstrations over and over and over and over again. And that's what I think is the next step. And I'm rooting for the new ministers coming in, the younger generation that are able to embrace the idea of miracles happening as an everyday occurrence. I'm rooting for the new leadership coming into this movement. But I know for me that my job is to prove these principles and to prove them on a daily basis in my own life and in the lives of those people who call this center their home. And so that's the push that I have for the movement. And what I would say to people is it doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter what your economy is. Doesn't matter what country you live in, what your gender is, what your story is, what your circumstances is. There is a presence and a power within you that can lead you over every obstacle. It will answer every question, and it will demonstrate a life that up until now you have not even been able to imagine. It's already there. You don't have to get it. You don't have to change. There is a magnificence and a glory within you. And as you open up to that, and as you learn to use these teachings and really make it happen, then it doesn't matter what's going on, whether you live in a hut or whether you live in a mansion, you can demonstrate a life filled with health and happiness and joy. Right here and right now, there is nothing that can stop you.
Thank you so very much. I have thoroughly enjoyed hearing your talk to us, and I know that everyone who watches will also enjoy it 100%.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you very much, Barbara.